So today, we're going to dive into some pretty explosive claims from the book Injustice by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalists Carol Leonnig and Aaron Davis. They argue that behind the scenes, behind those marble columns of the U.S. Department of Justice, there's been a secret war raging for the very soul of American law.
You know, this quote is literally chiseled into the stone of the Justice Department building. And it's more than just a decoration. It's supposed to be their mission statement. It's the ideal, right? The foundational principle that the law is supreme above any single person or political party. This is supposed to be the bedrock of the entire institution.
And this is the book we're talking about. It investigates what it calls a decade-long subversion of that exact mission. Leonnig and Davis are essentially arguing that this core principle has been threatened so badly that it actually jeopardizes the rule of law as we've known it in the United States.
Okay, so to really get the weight of what the book is claiming, let's first take a quick look at what the Department of Justice, the DOJ, is supposed to be. The DOJ's mission really has three main parts: enforce laws fairly, keep the country safe, and protect citizens' rights. And for generations of career public servants, these values have been the department's North Star. It's all about impartial, evidence-based justice. But here's the kicker. The central argument of injustice is that this ideal has been under a sustained attack, and not from the outside, but from within his own walls.
The authors actually call it a secret war, one that was fought day in and day out by career prosecutors. These are the non-political, lifelong employees of the department, against what they describe as just intense political pressure coming from the highest levels of government.
And this slide just lays out the conflict perfectly. On the one hand, you have the department's official mission: impartiality, evidence, the rule of law. But on the other hand, you have what the authors allege became the new reality, a department where political pressure, loyalty tests, and decisions driven by fear started to take over. Now, the book doesn't just make these broad claims. It illustrates this internal struggle with specific case studies, showing these moments where prosecutors were allegedly pushed right to their breaking point.
So let's look at one really key example the book presents. It details an alleged order that was given by Trump appointees to the acting U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, which is one of the most prestigious prosecutors' offices in the entire country. And what was the order? To just dismiss corruption charges against the then New York Mayor Eric Adams.
And what happened next is, well, it's just incredible, especially how fast it all went down. According to the book, on day one, the acting U.S. Attorney, Danielle Sassoon, she refuses the order and resigns on the spot. The very next day, the order goes to the elite Public Integrity Section, and its chief and his entire leadership team also refuse, and they all resign in protest. The book frames this as a mass exodus, a really stunning stand on principle against political pressure. But the book argues that the ultimate test for the Department of Justice, the real challenge, came with the investigation into the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. This, the authors claim, is where all those internal fractures really became obvious.
Now, according to Injustice, the department wasn't flying blind here. Get this. The book reports the FBI got over 50 separate warnings of violence from just the social media site Parler. They were tipped off about a TikTok video telling people to storm the Capitol. They were even alerted by the creator of some obscure historical website that his maps of the Capitol's underground tunnels were getting a sudden, massive surge in traffic. But the crucial point the book makes is that these tips were often dismissed one by one, with a failure to connect the dots and see the bigger, much more dangerous picture.
This alleged inaction created a vacuum, and the House January 6 committee stepped right into it. Their chief investigator is quoted saying his team felt like they were the first footprints in the snow, which is a pretty stark way of saying they felt the DOJ had failed to lead the charge.
And this right here is a perfect example of what he meant. The book alleges that the congressional team was interviewing key witnesses in Donald Trump's inner circle long before federal prosecutors ever even contacted them. It paints a picture of some serious hesitation at the highest levels of the DOJ.
The book even gets into this cultural clash that was supposedly happening inside the investigation itself. Some DOJ prosecutors reportedly felt that the FBI agents were being too passive, referring to some of the January 6 suspects as just knuckleheads. Now, to the prosecutors, that word signaled that the agents weren't taking the possibility of a coordinated criminal conspiracy seriously enough.
So after documenting all these internal battles, the book looks ahead. It starts asking about the long-term consequences, not just for the DOJ, but for the entire country.
And the book concludes with a really provocative scenario. It projects that after a 2024 Trump victory, the entire staff of Special Counsel Jack Smith would be fired, and the criminal cases against the former president would be dismissed, basically on the grounds that a sitting president can't be prosecuted.
So ultimately, our explainer of injustice doesn't end with a neat, tidy answer. Instead, it leaves us with the same fundamental question the book itself poses. After laying out its case of political interference, internal warfare, and alleged fear-driven decisions, it leaves us all to grapple with this. In a system where the nation's top law enforcement officers are political appointees, can justice truly remain impartial? It's a huge question that hangs over the future of the Department of Justice and the very definition of the rule of law in America.